Live from Central Pennsylvania, this is CBS 21 News This Morning.
Good morning and happy holidays. I'm Sherry Christian. Thank you for joining us for a special newscast where we'll take a look back at some of the biggest stories of 2018 in Central Pennsylvania. It was a busy year, covering a range of topics from wild weather to fallen first responders to political shakeups. One of the biggest stories, more than 25 years in the making. Investigators in Lancaster County made an arrest in the 1992 murder of local school teacher Christy Mirak. The man now charged in the crime is Raymond Rowe, a popular DJ in the area known as DJ Freeze. He was arrested June 25th after investigators honed in on him in May. And here's a look back at the announcement investigators made and how they were able to crack the decades-old case.
We never let this case go.
It's a statement District Attorney Craig Stedman made clear Monday afternoon. Joined by law enforcement officials from the county and state, DA Stedman announced that 49-year-old Raymond Rowe had been charged with the 1992 killing of Christy Mirak.
This killer was at liberty from this crime, this brutal crime, for longer than Christy Mirak was on this earth alive.
Officials say Rowe, who also goes by DJ Freeze, was never a suspect until new technology pointed law enforcement in his direction. DA Stedman says they called in Parabon Nanolabs to create a profile of Mirak's killer from DNA at the scene. They then took that profile and uploaded it to a genealogy database, which then led them to Rowe.
Had this come back to maybe Idaho, we've been like, well, wait a minute, that person's lived in Idaho their whole lives? No, this person lived right here at the time of the crime and has stayed in this community.
State police were able to match DNA collected from Rowe to the Parabon DNA profile, giving police a suspect. Rowe lived just 4 miles away from Mirak at the time of the murder and still lives in Lancaster. He was arrested today at his home without incident and charged with criminal homicide. DA Stedman says while this is the beginning of the process, he hopes it will bring closure to the family of Christy.
Her entire life was ahead of her. She had her dreams. She was a positive member of the community. She was a teacher, teaching kids, and her life was taken from her brutally.
As previously mentioned, Rowe was never on investigators' radar. That is until Parabon Nanolabs stepped in and changed the course of the investigation. Here's an in-depth look at how Rowe was traced to the murder.
This is all very new, and we're all figuring it out as we go along.
Just 2 months ago, Ellen Graytak says the technology that found Christy Mirak's alleged killer wasn't available. But today, it's put 49-year-old Raymond Rowe behind bars, charged with her murder.
They're out there just living their life, and there's just no way to find them without this genealogy.
She's referring to genetic genealogy, a new way forensic scientists are helping solve cold cases, much like Mirak's. Traditional forensics that police departments are able to do looks at 13 markers on a strand of DNA. But the work Parabon Nanolabs does takes it much further.
What we're doing is we're looking at hundreds of thousands of pieces of information, so that's the big difference. So we're able to detect even out to third cousins and sometimes even beyond. So those are really distant relatives. And since we have so much information, we're able to detect those relationships that traditional forensics can't.
Once they create that profile based on the DNA they're given, Parabon is able to upload it to a website called GEDmatch that has about 1 million users in the U.S. It operates much like ancestry websites that help link a person to long-lost family members. But unlike those private services, this is public and discloses to its users that law enforcement may use the site to identify a suspect of a violent crime.
They've chosen to put their DNA in a public database, and we can compare that sample from an unknown person to all those people in the database to try to find relatives.
Parabon says they only will look as far back as third cousins because of the amount of descendants there would be to comb through. And in the Mirak case, a hit came back in that range.
And in this case, it was quite a bit closer than that.
From there, Parabon turned their findings over to a genealogist who then builds a family tree using public records, census information, obituaries, and newspaper archives.
Find their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and then build forward in time to find all their descendants and find who could this person have been.
Graytak says the genetic makeup of the unidentified suspect can then help narrow the findings, whether the person is male or female, what ethnicity they are, and so on. In this case, the genealogy pointed to Rowe. But Graytak explains it's not a closed case just yet.
They then have to go out and investigate to see, does this make sense? And also collect DNA from those people. So if they think that one of these leads is really strong, what they can do is collect abandoned DNA. So go out and find DNA from this person, watch them drink from a cup and throw it away, then collect that cup.
That's exactly what District Attorney Craig Stedman says undercover state troopers did. On May 31st, undercover investigators followed Rowe to an event he was DJing at a local elementary school. They observed him using a water bottle and leaving it. They also found 2 cups, one with chewing gum in it. They sent both off to the State Police Crime Lab, and on June 8th, they were alerted that the DNA they collected matched the DNA collected at the crime scene 25 years ago.
We gave them the lead, but they're the ones who got the DNA and actually solved that case.
And for Ellen, being a part of helping to bring closure to these families is one of the best parts of her job.
This can't change anything, but hopefully it can at least help them sleep at night.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty in this case, and Merak's family supports that decision. Her brother sat down with us to talk about some of the closure they've gotten since Rowe's arrest.
I always say that old saying, tooth for a tooth, eye for an eye, life for a life.
Strong words from Christy's brother Vince. To him, the death penalty is the only option.
There's a person who lived his life in the limelight in the same city, town that this happened in, and put himself out like nothing was wrong and didn't care about anything. No remorse whatsoever.
He's hoping for something else too. He feels like he finally knows who did it, but he still doesn't know why.
We may never know, depending on where we go from here and how things happen. I don't know, we may never know, but yes, definitely would like to know, try to find out some answer of how and why.
They'll never get Christy back, but her family says getting justice is the next best thing.
I never would have thought, 25 plus years it would take, but it's amazing that we've come here and we're moving forward.
Rowe is currently in the Lancaster County Prison without bail. He's charged with criminal homicide, several counts of rape and burglary. His trial is scheduled to begin in May. We'll continue to follow this story throughout the coming months and update you with all the latest developments. 2018 was a difficult year for first responders. A look back at the tragedy that hit the York City Fire Department and how the community came together to support their firefighters. Plus, remembering the life and legacy of a local sprint car racer who made an impact both on and off the track.
You're watching CBS 21 News this morning.
2018 was a difficult year for first responders in Central PA, especially for those in the city of York. In May, the police department announced the passing of Officer Alex Sable. The 4-year veteran of the force died May 9th after suffering a cardiac arrest during a SWAT training incident in Baltimore. His untimely death came just 2 months after the city of York lost firefighters Ivan Flancha and Zachary Anthony. The 2 were killed in March when part of the former Weaver Organ and Piano Factory collapsed after catching fire. CBS 21's Michael Gorsinger shows us the memorial that took place days later to honor the 2 men.
Bells toll, bagpipers play. Thousands gather, all to remember the lives of 2 men who made the ultimate sacrifice.
I thank God for Ivan. I thank God threw him into my path because he was a reminder of what I should be striving for.
Zach was a crazy dreamer who looked for good in everyone and found it too.
Despite the tragedy, memories shine bright for the friends and family of firefighters Ivan Flancha and Zach Anthony.
Ivan and Zach both had a passion for the job. Although it's not the official job title, they were both kick-ass firefighters.
The pair was killed when a wall collapsed on them Thursday at the old Weaver Piano Building along North Broad Street in York. 2 others, Assistant Fire Chief Greg Altland and firefighter Eric Swanson, were seriously hurt.
Your recovery is our recovery.
Family, friends, and fellow firefighters packing Memorial Hall to pay tribute. Governor Tom Wolf and U.S. Senator Bob Casey among them. This tragedy, a sad reminder of the reality that our first responders face every day.
More than a job, it is a calling. It is truly a calling. We owe Zach and Ivan and all those who answer this call and who serve the public a deep debt of gratitude that is too deep to repay.
Senator Casey and Congressman Scott Perry handing over 2 United States flags to the families, both flying proudly over the U.S. Capitol on March 22nd, that fateful day. Governor Wolf presenting the Commonwealth's colors.
There are no words large enough, there's no sentiment grand enough, no thanks adequate to honor what they did for us.
Paying tribute today to help move forward tomorrow.
Loss is hard. Grief is hard. Having lost my brother, my friend, and my hero will never not sting.
Now, since the tragedy, Ivan Flanch's wife and Zach Anthony's fiance have filed a joint wrongful death lawsuit. They are suing Kearney Engineering Group Incorporated for professional negligence. The lawsuit says the company was responsible for determining the structural stability of the old Weaver Piano building and advising York firefighters about its safety after it caught fire. A deadly explosion at the Letterkenny Army Depot rocked the town of Chambersburg over the summer, forcing OSHA to get involved. It happened on Thursday, July 19th. Investigators say the explosion happened in a production paint kitchen. 2 workers were killed, several others were hurt.
Obviously, it's a tough time. I mean, I don't think the depot has dealt with something like this of this significance in a long time.
Officials say the victims were supporting paint operations on vehicles. The local racing community also experienced a tough loss this year. Sprint car driver Greg Hodnett of Spring Grove died in a crash during a race. The tragic accident happened September 20th at the Baps Motor Speedway, formerly known as the Susquehanna Speedway in Newberry Township. Hodnett won 20 World of Outlaws races and was a 5-time champion at Williams Grove Speedway in Mechanicsburg. Family and friends say he was a wonderful person on and off the track.
But outside of the racetrack, he was such a kind soul. He was very caring. He cared about everybody. He would do anything for anybody.
You would have never known that he was somebody. You know, he was just another guy there, another driver. And while he was very, very successful, he didn't treat you like you were anything less.
Hodnett was often described as the Dale Earnhardt of local racing. After an historic midterm election, a new wave of lawmakers is heading to Washington, D.C. We take a look back at the intense political season at both the state and national levels and the history that was made here in the Keystone State.
You're watching CBS 21 News this morning.
From a successful push to redraw congressional districts weeks before the primary to history being made in the House of Representatives, 2018 was a busy year in Pennsylvania politics. CBS 21's Joe Ducey has a look back at some of the year's biggest moments.
The big topic on many lawmakers and voters' minds at the start of this year was redistricting. In January, after intense debate between Republicans and Democrats, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ordered the state's congressional map be redrawn, saying the Republican-drawn districts violated the state's constitution. It was a big win for Democrats. Republicans filed a stay with the United States Supreme Court, which rejected the request. When the state's Republican-controlled legislature and Governor Wolf couldn't agree on a new map, the state Supreme Court redrew congressional lines itself just weeks before the primary.
We are going to defeat Tom Wolf in November.
It was a bold promise made by gubernatorial candidate Scott Wagner when the Republican State Committee of Pennsylvania endorsed him back in March. Wagner ran with Lieutenant gubernatorial candidate Jeff Bartos. Wagner went on to defeat businessman Paul Mango and Pittsburgh attorney Laura Ellsworth in the Republican primary, but ultimately fell short of defeating Governor Wolf in the general election.
All across America, people did what you did. You voted.
Governor Wolf got more than 57% of the votes, while Wagner got just over 40%. Wolf and his soon-to-be lieutenant governor, John Fetterman, the mayor of Braddock, will be sworn in Tuesday, January 15th in Harrisburg. Despite the Democratic momentum, 2 Republican incumbents came out on top in high-profile congressional races in our area.
We got a lot of work to do. This is really, really humbling.
Republican Scott Perry held off Democratic challenger George Scott in the race for the 10th congressional district. Lloyd Smucker defeated Democratic challenger Jess King for the 11th congressional district. There was a historic number of women who ran for office in Pennsylvania this year. In November, voters sent a record number 4 women to Congress. The women who won did so in districts that were under GOP control before the state Supreme Court redrew district lines earlier this year. Meanwhile, U.S. Senator Bob Casey won his 3rd consecutive U.S. Senate race, beating out former Republican congressman and staunch Trump ally Lou Barletta.
This election really was a victory for people across our Commonwealth who want a new direction in Washington.
Casey's dominant performance in a state that played a crucial role in Donald Trump's 2016 upset victory over Hillary Clinton has sparked speculation he may throw his hat in the ring for the 2020 race for the White House. With a look back at 2018 politics in Pennsylvania, I'm Joe Ducey, CBS 21 News.
The Pennsylvania Farm Show is right around the corner. Every year, it's a big week for us here at CBS 21 as we get to broadcast live from the event. Yeah, here we are right around the corner here. And here's a look back at some of our favorite moments of Farm Show 2018.
And we welcome you to the 102nd Pennsylvania Farm Show. It's in full swing this evening here in Harrisburg, the annual event bringing in thousands of people to central Pennsylvania.
And we have a beautiful smorgasbord.
We do. We get some maple custard. We got, of course, got the Farm Show milkshake.
Yes.
My favorite wine is It's Too Cold Out.
Yeah. That's been me a lot lately.
I'm pretty sure I saw you with cheese balls before the show and donuts.
Cheese cubes. Get it right.
But we're able to win the challenge over the team from ABC 27.
Just mention them on air.
We did. Here it is. You know, I had to bring it out.
There's our ribbon.
How many babies in there? 1, 2, 3, 4. I count at least 9. So that's a busy mama right there.
Why does the crowd get so big when you talk?
Well, because they want to hear about the warm weather. Everybody like warm weather, right? Warm.
They like the warm weather.
They love it.
They love it.
Fidget spinners! Perfect. Pancakes too. Hi, Mom.
Who loves warm temperatures? What? There they go.
We mounted these massive wagons pulled by 2 huge draft horses and were given the reins. And while we didn't come in first or second or 8th or 18th, we had so much fun.
Who won?
The speckled one right here.
The speckled
Beautiful
one
pattern.
right there, good pattern. What do you think? You're going for that one too?
The bright green.
The bright greens.
I have to tell you, I walked past one of the stands and I was petting them. They're so soft.
I know.
So
and you
soft.
wanted one, right?
I would love one.
But they're very pricey.
Are you buying?
No, I'm not. Not this year. Maybe next year.
Lemonade that's actually sweetened with maple. Is that right?
Yes.
Sweetened with maple. Here we go. That's good. That's good and sweet.
What's the number one or top spots that I need to hit?
Well, you have to start with milkshake. I know everybody always talks about the milkshake, but you've got to start with the milkshake. You cannot experience the farm show until you actually have the farm show milkshake. And then from there, there's so many great things.
Here's what I call the grandpa fro.
Guys, you can hear that across the entire place.
We got some new calves to show you. Look at these cute little ladies. 3 of them born within the last day, including twins, which is relatively rare.
If you come down to the studio here live at the farm show, you'll see. Don't turn around, turn around. Favorite food at the food court?
You know, I hate to admit it, but I enjoy it all. You know, I've been trying to, just like you. You know, you're eating something different every day. It's all good.
The way we tell stories is changing with the help of drones. After the break, we take a look at all things Skyview 21 has allowed us to see from above in 2018.
You're watching CBS 21 News this morning.
We took our storytelling to soaring heights this year thanks to our drone, Skyview 21. It captured scenes from some of the biggest stories of the year, as well as beautiful scenery from a new perspective. Here's a look at some of the images of 2018 from Skyview 21. Again, those were some shots from our Skyview 21 in 2018. We're halfway through our special newscast, reviewing some of the biggest stories of the past year. Coming up, the grand jury report, years in the making, that rocked the Catholic Church all the way to the Vatican. Plus, a life cut too short, the law enforcement officer killed in the line of duty, and the fallout and investigations that followed his death.
You're watching CBS 21 News this morning.
We continue this special newscast of the biggest stories of 2018. Thanks for staying with us. One of the first big stories of the year was the death of Deputy U.S. Marshal Christopher Hill. He was shot while serving an arrest warrant on January 18, 2018. The 45-year-old father of two later died at the hospital. The man who shot him, Kevin Sturgis, was killed by task force members. CBS 21's Joe Ducey takes a look back at the deadly encounter.
2 officers were shot while serving a warrant at a house on the 1800 block of Mulberry Street.
Deputy Hill made the ultimate sacrifice.
45-year-old Christopher Hill, an 11-year veteran of the United States Marshal Service, was killed. A second officer was hurt when the shooter opened fire in an ambush-style attack.
A male individual then exited the front of the residence, firing at law enforcement officers.
After dragging the injured officers to safety, the 7-man fugitive task force team took down the suspect. EMS raced both officers to the hospital, but for Deputy Hill, it was too late.
Our entire community mourns the loss of Deputy Hill, and the brotherhood and sisterhood of law enforcement stands together.
Deputy Hill served the American people and the citizens of this community with courage. He will be missed, and words cannot say how much.
Fighting back tears, Martin Payne describes the highly decorated agent. Chris Hill was part of the agency's Special Operations Group and an Army veteran. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children.
None of us has sufficient words to express our grief and sorrow. Hills have lost a husband, a father, a son, a brother far too soon.
A life cut short and a community vowing to stay strong.
We will not back down to the violent crime in our neighborhoods.
Christopher Hill was laid to rest on January 25th, 2018, exactly 1 week after he was shot. We would later learn he was killed by friendly fire in the raid. Members of law enforcement from all over the country came to Dauphin County to pay their respects and salute their brother in blue one last time.
As the body of fallen Deputy U.S. Marshal Christopher Hill passed beneath his fire truck, Chief Brendan Orth got chills.
This is something that unfortunately we do, but we do it with honor.
Chambers Hill Fire Company helped honor the slain hero as his body arrived in Hershey for the memorial service by draping an American flag over Route 39. Inside the Giant Center, a sea of brothers in blue.
I saw them from Colorado, Florida. He had coworkers that used to work with him from Florida that made the trip up. They're from all over the nation, and the outpouring of support for the family is unwavering in there.
O'Rourke says he didn't know Christopher Hill personally, but describes the man who his colleagues say was the best of the best.
Chris was the go-to guy in the marshal's office. He was tactically sound. He was the guy that you wanted going through a door with you.
And also a jokester. O'Rourke says during a somber service, the mood was lightened just a bit as friends told stories about the man behind the badge. Officials say they hope the family remembers those memories and feels the support of not only Central PA, but the entire nation.
We'll never truly be able to help them understand what their family member meant, but this is our way to show them what they meant to the community, what they meant to the family of the emergency responders.
It just comes to a point where you wish you wouldn't have to do this anymore, but when it happens, it's one fight, one army, and you will see representation from all over the nation attending.
Hill was part of a task force that was serving a warrant to a woman when the shootout began. Shayla Pierce was wanted on several charges, including assault and terroristic threats. But it turns out officers didn't need to go to her home the day her boyfriend, Kevin Sturgis, opened fire.
Listen, anytime that you hear that there was a warrant
that could have been served, that's an awful thing to learn.
But that's what Dauphin County officials are now investigating, one day after we broke the story that Shayla Pierce appeared in court in the weeks leading up to last week's deadly shooting, but was never arrested while she was in the courthouse. Documents we just received today from the Court of Common Pleas show not one, but 2 times Shayla Pierce was in court with an active warrant for her arrest and was not arrested. This transcript from January 4th says she appeared in court for misdemeanor charges from a different case. That case was dismissed, and transcripts show the judge told Pierce, quote, "There will be no conviction. The case is dismissed. Have a nice life." Pierce was released that day. The felony terroristic threats charges against her for allegedly holding a gun to a woman's head and threatening to shoot her back in November were never brought up in court. Those charges are what police and U.S. Marshals say led them to serve a warrant at Pierce's home last Thursday.
People make appearances in the courthouse on tens of thousands of occasions, and they check the warrants for county warrants, and apparently this warrant was not among those.
Dauphin County District Attorney Fran Chardo says because the warrant for Pierce came from the Magisterial District Court and not the county court, the Dauphin County Sheriff's Office didn't check it. The sheriff told us yesterday they just don't have the manpower to check warrants out of the district courts. But Fran Chardo says they're already working on a solution.
We take this very, very seriously, and we're reviewing the procedures. I've spoken to the sheriff and to the clerk of courts to see if there are improvements we can make in the system, because we owe it to Chris to make sure that if there are improvements that can be made in the system to avoid future tragedy, that we make them.
Another big story that really captured the attention of people across central PA, a boating accident in Harrisburg that left 2 people and a dog dead. Cody Binkley, Mary Breadbender, and their daughter, 3-year-old Madeline Binkley, were on a boat that capsized at the Dock Street Dam the night of May 7th. Breadbender's body was found near the Turnpike Bridge in Swadera Township that night, and the body of Madeline was found days later near the Middletown boat access. Officials say Cody Binkley was the one who called 911 the night of the accident. He was the only survivor. In the months since, an investigation revealed he was under the influence of marijuana. He was charged and is still awaiting trial. In the months following that tragic accident, the city of Harrisburg put up new signage to warn boaters of the dangers of the Dock Street Dam. The new warnings are paired with the old signage on the bridges, buoys in the water, and reflective signs or lights that enable people to see the cautions at nighttime too. There has also been talk about making changes to the dam itself, but River Rescue says it does serve a purpose.
I know that if we were to get rid of it completely, we could lose the Susquehanna River, just based on water levels. So we have to find a way to get the benefits of it, but still helping educate people and navigating the hazards of it.
Emergency crews can't say for certain yet if the new signs are enough. An investigation that shocked the country conducted in our own backyard. The grand jury report detailing sex abuse in the Catholic Church, the subsequent fallout, and the victims who are no longer silent. Plus, Mother Nature took us on a wild ride this year, the havoc she created around central Pennsylvania.
You're watching CBS 21 News this morning.
It's a report that rocked the nation. In 2018, Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro released a grand jury report investigating widespread abuse at the hands of Catholic priests and the church's systematic cover-up. He sat down with CBS News to reflect on the report's findings.
301 names. That's how many a nearly 900-page report identified as alleged abusers within the Catholic Church. But their victims outnumber that at more than 1,000. Many there today as the report was announced.
Today was an important day for the survivors, my heroes. They got to share their truth for the first time.
The Attorney General's findings laid out a 2-year investigation into sexual assault within the Catholic Church in 6 dioceses in PA that went on for decades. The detailed report Shapiro describes as graphic in nature.
I think it's impossible for any human being to read this report and not be shocked. It's frankly shocking that the priests and the bishops and the monsignors and the cardinals knew about all this and weren't shocked
and sought to cover it up.
The grand jury made 4 recommendations: to create a civil window so older victims would be able to sue, create new language to clarify the penalties of not reporting abuse, get rid of confidentiality agreements, and also eliminate the statute of limitations for cases like this.
No one should be out of reach of the law just because they happen to live a particularly long time. If you raped a child, you should be held accountable in a court of law. I wish that I could have charged all 301 predator priests, at least those who are still living.
And while the report was announced today, Shapiro says helping victims doesn't stop here.
This is very much an active and ongoing investigation. We have a special hotline set up for clergy abuse, and we continue to receive calls from those with helpful information to us.
The grand jury report estimates there are more than 1,000 child victims abused by Catholic priests in Pennsylvania. 8 of them are members of the same Dauphin County family. CBS 21's Amanda Hoskins sat down with 5 of the Fortney sisters who opened up about the abuse.
8 sisters.
I was abused for 10 years.
Hundreds of disturbing memories for years were hushed.
You need to come into the bathroom when you...
Of one priest, one diocese, whose actions traumatized the family of 11 who say their Catholic faith was the center of their lives.
5 years of it could have been stopped if they would have said something and they would have done something.
The whole community didn't want to talk.
The sisters say the alleged incidents date back to 1980s in Enhot.
He was the master manipulator. He used education and caring about our development as his smokescreen for what he was doing.
From there, Teresa. Then Carolyn took on the abuse.
It was what you would think is the worst molestation you could think of, probably.
The family says the priest was a trusted family friend.
We were taught they were the mediator between God and man. I mean, we would tell them our confession, and we were told that they could, forgive our sins, just like God could.
Carolyn says she was abused as a toddler. It went on for a decade. It wasn't until they say the family was visiting the then retired priest at his home when a niece found nude photos of Carolyn and others.
From that point forward, it changed our family completely.
I was afraid that if I spoke about it, even within my own family, who would overhear that? And would that negatively impact my sisters?
For years, the family only knew about Carolyn's story until motherly instincts found she wasn't the only one hurting.
I didn't want to add any more burden to my family.
The girls say the abuse robbed them not only of their childhoods, but their relationships as adults.
It's been hard. My marriage has fallen apart. And it just affects every aspect of your life.
While it's not easy to tell their stories, the sisters feel they must, so other victims will get relief too.
We're doing this for all the people that don't have the gift of a grand jury. That window needs to happen for those people. This is wrong.
As mentioned, the grand jury report listed several recommendations moving forward. One of them included a retroactive 2-year civil window that would allow victims whose abuse took place outside the statute of limitations to file lawsuits against abusers. That bill, SB 261, passed the Pennsylvania House of Representatives back in September. It went on to the Senate, where it faced a tougher fight. It failed to gain enough support, and last month, the legislative session ended without passing the measure. Victims and advocates say they will continue the fight in January. An historic win by one of the biggest underdogs in the NFL. That's right, we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl 52 win. A look back at the celebration the city of brotherly love waited decades for. Mother Nature kept us on our toes in 2018, to say the least, right? Meteorologist Chris Nallen takes us back to some of the wildest weather we experienced during the year.
It was certainly a wild weather ride in 2018. After a relatively calm farm show week and the start to the winter season, March came in with a bang as a large windstorm on Friday, March 2nd, bringing sustained wind gusts of 40 to 60 miles per hour, causing widespread damage throughout the area. Late March then brought us a record-breaking early spring snowstorm, as between 10 and 16 inches fell on March 21st and 22nd. That storm set the tone for a chilly April, as spring took forever to actually get sprung, and April temperatures stayed well below average. More history was made on June 13th when an EF2 tornado ripped through the Wilkes-Barre area, tearing off numerous roofs and blowing out windows in and around the Wyoming Valley Mall. 6 people were injured as utility poles were snapped and numerous lines were down. But the summer of 2018 could be summed up in one word: rain. Between June 1st and August 15th, Harrisburg alone officially saw 19 inches of rain. That's nearly a foot above average. The worst of the deluge came from Saturday, July 21st until Thursday, July 26th, when many areas saw over 10 inches of rain. The hardest hit areas were in Lebanon and in Hershey. The rains even forced Hershey Park to close for 3 days during the peak of their summer season. The last week of August brought more torrential downpours, causing creeks to flood near the Accomack Inn in York County. 10 inches of rain fell on the River Road in just 2 hours, causing nearly a quarter of a mile of the road to be washed away. November proved to be a very eventful month as well, when a mid-November snowstorm blanketed the region. Snow started falling mid-morning on Thursday, November 15th, and it continued throughout the day. Because the snow arrived after many people were already at work, it led to an extremely slow, treacherous, and accident-filled afternoon on the area roads. By the time the dust, or snow in this case, had settled, we officially received 8.8 inches of snow, making it the second largest November snowstorm on record.
It was the moment Philadelphia Eagles fans waited their entire lives for. A Super Bowl win. The team finally succeeded in February against the New England Patriots. CBS 21's Michael Gorsinger was in Philly as the city celebrated with a victory parade.
Euphoria, the best way to explain the hundreds of thousands of fans lining Broad Street, many saying they just want to get a simple piece of history. A hero's welcome for a group of guys now part of Philadelphia sports lore.
Been a fan for 54 years and waited for this my whole life.
Droves and droves of people as far as the eye can see, flooding the streets of Philadelphia, brimming with pride. Among them, these 3 guys from Lancaster making the voyage.
This is once in a lifetime. I'm not going to miss this because this is the best ever.
Go Eagles!
We got here early just like we do for the games, and we're ready to go.
Just like game day Sundays, Robbie Stevens and his crew sauntering down Broad Street and Patterson Avenue. Today was different, though. Today was 25 years in the making.
I didn't see the Super Bowl. It could have been a movie. Today's going to prove that we actually won.
This is a huge celebration for all of us, really, to get the monkey off the back. I mean, this is done. This is it. We finally got a championship.
Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory.
The Eagles fight song echoing throughout the streets of Philly, starting at 4 a.m.
A long time coming. We've been waiting for this for years.
It's indescribable. There's no other place I'd rather be. I mean, I think no matter what, these are the best fans in the world.
And as the confetti falls and the players pass, the memories, they'll last a lifetime.
Everybody just feels like a family here and just enjoying it.
E-N-G-L-E-S-E-O!
Well, 2018 was a tough year for a lot of people across the country, from mass shootings to natural disasters. We take a look at the stories that made national headlines.
You're watching CBS 21 News this morning.
Mass shootings and natural disasters of historic proportions brought heartache and hardship to communities across the country in 2018. But there were also some uplifting moments. CBS 21's Ashley Honey takes a look back at this year's top national stories.
2018 marked the deadliest and costliest wildfire season on record in California. Fast-moving flames wiped out the Northern California town of Paradise, killing more than 80 people and destroying at least 18,000 structures. The Southeast took a pummeling from hurricanes. Florence barreled into the Carolinas, killing 20 people and leaving widespread flooding. Then Michael roared ashore just shy of a Category 5, flattening coastal communities in Florida's Panhandle. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano erupted, sending rivers of lava into neighborhoods. A country facing an increasing number of school shootings watched the deadliest mass shooting at a U.S. high school unfold on Valentine's Day at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. A former student killed 17.
We cannot keep America great if we cannot keep America safe.
Parkland survivors organized the March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C., advocating tighter gun control, and students across the country walked out of classes to urge lawmakers to take action. 10 were killed at a Santa Fe high school in Texas, and a gunman stormed the Capitol Gazette newsroom in Annapolis, Maryland, killing 5. Violence also found its way into the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
It's a very horrific crime scene. It's one of the worst that I've seen.
A gunman killed 11 people, the deadliest attack on a Jewish community in the U.S. Days later, a shooter opened fire at the Borderline Bar in Thousand Oaks, California. It was a pivotal moment in the Me Too movement. In April, disgraced comedian Bill Cosby was convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting former Temple University employee Andrea Constand. The 81-year-old actor, once called America's Dad, is in prison. He could serve up to 10 years. In July, President Trump nominated Brett Kavanaugh to replace Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, but it was a contentious confirmation, with several women from Kavanaugh's past came forward with allegations of sexual assault.
I believed he was going to rape me. I tried to yell for help. When I did, Brett put his hand over my mouth to stop me from yelling.
Judge Kavanaugh vehemently denied the allegations, and a divided Senate voted him on the court in October. 17 passengers, including 9 from the same family, died when a duck boat sank on a Missouri lake.
When they pulled me up from the boat, I didn't see any of my family.
A limo carrying a wedding party crashed into a parked car in upstate New York, killing 20.
Report to the lobby to receive direction to the basement.
Hawaiian residents panicked when a worker mistakenly sent out a false ballistic missile alert following threats by North Korea to attack the U.S. And Prince Harry married American actress Meghan Markle in royal fashion. They are now expecting their first child in the spring.
See if I can make you a billionaire tonight.
And one very lucky ticket from South Carolina won the $1.5 billion Mega Millions jackpot, the second largest in world history.
Thank you, Ashley. Did you remember all of the stories? I bet you we surprised you with some of them. And that's going to do it for our special newscast of the biggest stories of 2018. We'll see you right here at 5 a.m. tomorrow for CBS 21 News This Morning. Have a great day.